You're watching TelecomTV from the 5G World event in London. And joining me now is Hossein Moiin, who is CTO for mobile networks at Nokia. Hossein, good to talk to you again on TelecomTV. Now, there's been a call this week, and it's not for the first time, for Europe to step up for 5G. But what more can Europe actually do?
So I think as a continent, Europe is home of many innovative companies, including ourselves, Nokia. We're a very European company. We're headquartered in Finland. And Europe remains very dear to our hearts. So what worries me is we've seen the rate of deployment that's being talked about and now being put in practice in markets such as US or Korea or Japan. We have not seen such urgency from the European customers. And part of the reason, in our opinion, is the uncertainty around regulatory environment. So I think that's the area to focus on, in ensuring that Europe remains a destination for investment from an operator perspective. So what are a couple of things that we can do quickly? One is harmonization of spectrum. I think that needs to be a European based. The other one, perhaps a little bit more challenging, is ensuring that European operators are competitive. So what's the challenge there? The challenge there from my perspective is scale. So Europe is roughly the same size as US. It has more than 70 operators. And in US, with the same market size, there are 4. So is it really possible to have the level of investment that's required for network operations when you have 70 players? Perhaps that's the biggest challenge. And I think those are the areas where policymakers in the European Union and UK can really help.
So are you saying that we need a more supportive regulatory environment as we head towards 5G?
I think that's the right approach, is to have a more supportive regulatory environment. And the support is for investment, for ensuring that return on investment is something that is considered by the regulators. And if we can do that, then I think Europe will go back to its natural position as one of the leaders in the global telecom industry.
You've talked about spectrum, but how much of the promise of 5G can be delivered in existing spectrum resources, sub 3 gigahertz, for instance?
So I think actually it's important to recognize that low band spectrum, say below 3, have a very significant role to play in 5G. In 5G, we are trying to create a common fabric to do 3 different applications. One is enhanced mobile broadband. I would like to call it extreme mobile broadband. We would like to ensure that we have a low latency, highly reliable network. And the third is that ability to connect trillion devices to this network. In one access, one of the key requirements of connecting these trillion devices is that it needs to be at very low frequency, well below 3. Why? Because of the power consumption. Because many of these will be buried underground where high frequencies cannot even reach them. So clearly we need to have a way of reaching these devices, making sure that they can have battery lives of more than 10 years. So low frequencies will play a key role in enabling these use cases. But also, the other promise of 5G is that you will have broadband experience everywhere, or anywhere that matters is perhaps more accurate. And to do that, you need coverage. And coverage at millimeter or even centimeter wave length is quite challenging. So what we need is a very well thought out spectrum policy from the regulators and operators in order to ensure that 5G is enabled also in low bands, so that coverage can be provided. I believe that low bands are an integral part of 5G, and along with the capacity that high bands provide, they are the necessary component to complement each other and realize the promise of 5G for consumers and enterprises.
Looking at standards, does the split nature of Release 15, which happened in order to accommodate the faster completion of non-standalone mode. Does that present perhaps unwanted and unwelcome complications for vendors such as Nokia?
It adds pressure to us in Nokia as well as our colleagues and competitors. But at the same time, it's a welcomed pressure, and it's not unnecessary. I think it's necessary. So why do I say it's necessary? Because I think we see the emergence of these new use cases. We talk about Internet of Things. We talk about autonomous driving. We see that there is a need for these use cases to come to fruition. And if they do come to fruition without the appropriate network, they will be subpar and they will leave a bad taste in the society and consumers. So we must make sure that they actually have the right environment. This ensures that one network will be designed with these in mind, so these use cases can benefit from that network. At the same time, that network will have the right scale because of its application to many different use cases, extreme mobile band being among the chief, so that they will have the necessary scale to be deployed, which is important to get the costs down. So really, when we talk about 5G and the acceleration, it stems from not our needs and our desires as technologies to see our products come to fruition, but ensuring that the market is not fragmented and ensuring that the new emerging use cases will get to masses and to the society at optimal cost levels. A welcomed pressure, but a pressure nonetheless.
Now, there's been an increase recently in discussions around so-called white box solutions from certain operators. Now, couple that with open source software and the continuing disintermediation between hardware and software. Does this fundamentally change the relationship between operators and vendors within the ecosystem?
So I think there is some evolution of that relationship that's expected. I think it's important to bear in mind that the ultimate goal is to enable services and enable them in the most cost-efficient manner. It's the job of the operators to invest in this domain, and they need to ensure that they are able to get a return on their investment. So I think this is a welcome development. Now, having said that, a note of caution. It's not the first time our industry is trying these approaches. We've tried it a number of times before, and for one reason or another, we've realized that maybe some vertical integration is needed, but now with the new capabilities of general purpose processing, networking, cloud, etc., I think it's the right time for us to reconsider this. Nokia is actually a big supporter of the open movement, but it's also one where we're very careful about respecting intellectual property of others as well as ourselves, and in addition ensuring that the finished product will meet the requirements that's laid out. So if we can manage these within the context of open source, within the context of increased disintermediation, it is certainly a welcome move, and we will support such a move.
Hossein, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.